Okay, update part 3 of my WGU RN to BSN online. I'm trying to make it so my face isn't super dark. So after my last update, I think I had completed 3 videos and I was in 820. So I had emailed my mentor, who's super nice. Her name is Lizzie. I'd recommend her if you could pick. I don't know if you can really pick. I think you kind of can. Anyways, so I'd emailed her after the last test I took. I believe it was the informatics. And I was like, hey, is there any way I can maybe take another course? Since I have, at that point I had 26 weeks, like basically the full 25 weeks left in the term. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could finish another course in essentially 6 months. So I emailed her after finishing the older adult, the informatics. I wanted to take basically care of the older adult and nutrition because I've heard those are pretty quick classes. So I waited that night. I didn't hear anything. So being the sort of assertive person that I'm normally not, I had scheduled an appointment, like a phone appointment with her for the next day at like 3 p.m. or something like that. Oh man. And she emailed me the next day, so the day of the appointment, and said, hey, so I don't check my email until 2 p.m. her time, which I think she's like in the central time. And she's like, yeah, we can totally let you do another course at a time. That shouldn't be an issue, but just so you know, once you like start it, you're committed to it, and if you don't complete it by the end of the term, it'll be a fail on your transcript. And she's like, was there something else you wanted to talk about on the call? I felt kind of bad because I'm not normally super pushy or anything, but I emailed back and said, no, that's fine. Yeah, we don't need to do the meeting. I basically just wanted another class to do. So she let me sign up for care of the older adult. Let's see, today's Wednesday. Finished that course Monday, I think the 4th or something like that. I think it was the next day after my informatics. So I took that test and passed it. It's kind of I feel like part of it wasn't even just the older adult. It seemed like it was much more broad than that, but it wasn't horrible. But yeah, I'd probably say steady for it a little bit. When she initially emailed me, she said, this one is actually a lot harder than it used to be. The pre-assessment is not really indicative of the objective assessment, so you need to study for it. So she sent me this link with a bunch of study stuff, and I'm like, all right, and if you say so. So I kind of went through the pre-assessment. I did okay on. So far, I've passed all the pre-assessments, and I typically don't really study much for those, just to see kind of where I'm at. If I need to actually spend time studying, then I will. But anyway, so I did okay on it. I looked on the Facebook group and people were like, no, it's fine. Just go through this section here, which is, again, really good. You should sign up for the Facebook group. It's like the WGN or WGU RN to BSN support group. That's like the main group. And they have like a side biochem and a side like stats group. I'd say join all 3, but the main one is good. And they said basically just read these few things. And there's like the file section on the left with some like study guides. So they just recommended going through that. And so then I did that, and I took the test later that night. I don't know, I've taken so many tests lately, they're all kind of blurring together, which is great. But yeah, so I passed it, which was nice. And then I talked with my mentor again. I think I emailed her, and I was like, can I do nutrition next? And she said, sure. So I just went and she added it. So I added it, and then you have to hit start course when you go to the main page. And so that one actually, when I did the pre-assessment, again, with these pre-assessments, I'm not super focused when I do them. I'm kind of listening to music, clicking around and stuff. So it's not like the OA where I'm like really focused. There's nothing else. There's no other distractions going on. So that one I actually technically passed, but I think if I had literally missed one more question, I would have been undercompetent. So I was like, that's not great. It's not a great feeling, because I'm normally pretty good with nutrition and stuff, but there were just a few little things that made it a little difficult. Because they talk about like estimated average requirement, recommended daily intake, which is related to the recommended daily allowance, like the RDA. So all these different sort of metrics they use, and like the Economic Research Council, and they talk about food security and insecurity and all that stuff. So it makes it a little more challenging. It's not just like, oh, how many calories are in 3 grams of carbohydrates or anything basic like that. But once you start doing a little more of the studying, and you go to the study guides that people have, or the recorded cohorts, which are actually pretty good because there's 4 of them. There's 4 videos, and it's basically all just practice questions, and the person going over it kind of explains the rationale behind it. So I did go through the videos, although I didn't really listen to what the person was saying. I skipped just to the next question. They're each like an hour or something, but I would just skip ahead. And I think each one had probably like 30 questions or something. So it's really good for practice. I would say do that first before checking out the files in the shared group area, because those just have like the question and then just the correct answer, versus you go through the cohort and it has like the whole question with all the answers, and it's not highlighted yet, but then they go over it. So I think that's a good way to do the practice questions. So I was all gearing up. I was ready to complete that class. So that was going to be, nutrition was my 5th class so far. And so I was going to take it last night, went out and did some stuff, worked outside, came in, studied, went over the study guides, went through their questions. I was going to take it at 11 p.m. So I go to like do it in this one. So care of the older adult, that one was a proctored one again, which overall seems smoother than the examinee ones. I haven't had any issue with the Zoom stuff yet. They just have you look around the room, and they like to have, the Zoom one likes to have the camera to the side, it seems like, facing the desk so they can see the screen, versus the examinee wants you like more in the middle of the screen or of the camera so they can see you. I don't know. I haven't had any issues yet, and I've passed all the courses. So anyway, so I did the nutrition class, or the nutrition OA, and I went to do it, and I started to go in, and then it said like there's some kind of error right before I was going to start it, and it said contact support or something like that. So I'm like, oh, great, come on, like this is really frustrating when you're ready to take a test and this pops up. So I go to the contact support. While I'm doing that, I call, and then so I called the examinee number, and it like went to a voicemail, even though on the page, the error page, it says they're open 24/7 for chat, email, and phone. So I was doing 2 of those things. The phone went to voicemail, and I left of course a very polite message there. And then the chat person finally came up and said, you need to contact the school. And I was like, dude, this is your fault. This is examinee's issue. And he's like, no, whatever, it's WGU. So then I did go back to WGU, their website, and they had some sort of emergency maintenance that had to be done. I don't really know why. But it started basically right when I was going to start my test, so at 11 p.m. And I couldn't get into the course stuff at all, like the degree plan, anything, so I couldn't reschedule my exam. So I was concerned that I was going to have a no-show on my OA, and there's going to be all these issues. So I ended up calling WGU earlier today and be like, hey, I had signed up for this, but there's this technical issue. Like, can you not count this as an OA or a no-show for me? And she said, you actually have 24 hours. Like, say you schedule an exam, you have 24 hours after that to reschedule it in order for it to not show up as a missed OA. So I could have just rescheduled it and been fine, but I thought I'll just be safe and talk to them and just make sure so I don't screw something up, and then I have a no-show, and then I mess up on the second test and then have to do something horrible down the road. So I kind of let that just work itself out. And she apparently wasn't even aware that there had been an outage overnight for like 5 hours, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So I took that test just this morning, a few hours ago, And it wasn't too bad. Like the more you go through the practice questions and even the questions on the test, the more kind of obvious the answer is. There's usually like 3 answers that don't really apply to the question, or 3 of them are all kind of the same in one direction, only one is the other direction. So it wasn't too bad. I did pretty well on it overall. I don't think I got exemplary, but I think I got close. I was easily competent, but it wasn't quite exemplary, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with being competent. So with that being done, I've completed 5 courses, and today is May 6th. I don't know if I'll be able to complete one today because I think I'm pretty much past all the testing classes. So the one I'm working on today is the health assessment. And so that one has 2 components: the recorded video, which I mentioned before. So you have to do a recorded video assessment or recorded video health assessment on someone. And the key with that one is you need to make sure they sign the consent form. So it's in the course. You have to go to course materials, print it out, have the person sign it. And then you have to record yourself. I think it has to be all in one clip. You can't use an iPhone or anything like that. You can use like your web camera that you're using for your testing anyways to do that. And then there's basically people have made scripts on the Facebook group. And so they've said that you basically just read this out and then do things as you read them. That way you don't forget things. Because I was going through basically the rubric, and there's like 5 different areas, 6 different areas, 4 to 6 different areas. And some of them have like 12 components or 17 components, different components. And on each one you can miss between like 2 or 4 and still be okay. But if you were just doing it all from memory, it might be hard and it would take a lot of practice and memorization. So what I'm going to do and what I would recommend is just printing off the paper script. And I think it's like 4 pages. So you basically just read it off, read what you're going to do or say what you're going to do. That's always important to do. Because they don't always know what you're doing. If you're just putting a stethoscope on someone, they don't know what you're listening for. So to say what you're doing as much as you can, and then you should be good. I think most people do it and it takes about half an hour. I'm not 100% sure if there's a time limit, but most people have been saying they do it in about 30 minutes. And then the other component is you have to do this online health assessment on this. It's like an interactive, it's not really a game because it's not fun, but it's an interactive patient you ask questions on. And it's a little confusing. I probably didn't read the instructions super clearly. Whatever, I've done health assessments a lot on people. But you basically need to go through and listen and just check someone out like completely, like more than you would do on the video assessment. And then there's a bunch of questions you're supposed to ask. And if you go into the Facebook group, there's someone who has theirs completed, and it kind of goes through, what they asked and what they didn't ask. On the right side, it'll say, if you asked about basically asthma or medications or something about health history, you basically just type in this box and the person responds to it saying, oh yeah, I have asthma, I have diabetes, I've taken this medication. So you want to ask, how often do you take the medication? Do you have any reactions? Things like that, things you'd normally ask. But there's just a lot. It was like 3 pages of a PDF. So I would recommend doing that, and it'll help go way faster, because otherwise you're going to spend like all day spending time just asking the right questions, and you don't know if you have it completely right. With that being said, I think you only need a 75% to pass that online part. I got like a 95%, so I did way too much, but whatever. I'd rather be thorough the first time and not have to redo everything. So when my wife gets home, I'm planning on doing the video assessment and getting that uploaded, and then I'll be starting the writing courses. And I know some of these you can still do in a day, so I'm hoping to start with the ones that I can kind of just get done really quickly, so I see my progress going fast, versus kind of slogging through some big paper that takes me 3 weeks, and I feel like I'm not really progressing in the program. So that's my plan. We'll see if it changes. Again, my course mentor is basically letting me pick whatever classes I want to do. Still just one at a time though. She's not going to let me sign up for all of them right now. which kind of helps me focus a little better, because I think if there was more classes going on, it would distract me. And like, I'd recommend if you're taking biochem and stats, just focus on one. There's no point in doing both. I would say just focus on biochem, take a break, do something relaxing for a little bit, and then come back to it. A lot of times people have issues like with biochem and stats, like there's concepts that are hard to kind of grasp. I'd recommend just studying for a bit, and when you feel like you've hit a block, like literally just go for a walk or take a break and just do something else, because a lot of times your brain will kind of work in the background, and then when you come back to an issue you were having before, it can kind of make more sense because your brain's not like just hyper focusing on things. So I'd recommend doing that. But so far the program seems pretty good. I think it's actually kind of an interesting program. I feel like I'm learning things overall, probably more than I would otherwise if I wasn't taking the program. So if you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. Just go in the comments, and I'm making links to my previous videos too. They should pop up at the end of this video, hopefully. Otherwise, I'll put it in the description if you want to look at parts 1 and 2. So good luck.